How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We got a lot to talk about in the show here today. We're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. Last night was Monday Night Raw. And, of course, tonight, SmackDown, some of the final shows before the biggest night of the year for WWE. We have the current official full card for WrestleMania with still many matches to be added. A couple of weeks ago, we had somebody that sent in a note here saying, man, you look at all the programs, you look at all the titles, if every title is defended, we're looking at 18 matches on the show. It is not out of the realm of possibility. We're going to have 18 matches at WrestleMania. We've got 13 now, and many more to be added, including Women's Battle Royal, the Daniel Bryan Kofi Kingston match, which WWE actually already made official on accident, I believe on their Instagram. But we could talk about the WrestleMania card, Raw last night, SmackDown tonight, Kurt Angle, Triple H and Batista, whatever's on your mind, the women's three-way. It's fair game today. 844-411-5411 is the phone number. That is toll-free, 844-411-5411. You can send your text messages to 425-780-7566. And yes, we've got to talk about Conor today, Conor McGregor. Yesterday, he announced his retirement on Twitter. He basically stated that he was retiring from mixed martial arts, and I didn't take it that seriously. I mean, it's not the first time he's done it. Whenever he's negotiating, he retires. And he's retired on Twitter before, came back very shortly thereafter, retired on Twitter yesterday. I mean, for whatever it's worth, which we're taking Conor's word and then we're going to Dana White's word. I mean, Dana White says he's done. So I believe Dana White has said that before about Conor McGregor. So a lot of negotiations going on right here. But there's also something much more serious going on with Conor McGregor. We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. We'll get into the Raw stuff here in a little while. But first off, this from the New York Times. Conor McGregor, the Ultimate Fighting Championship's biggest star, one of the world's highest-paid athletes, is under investigation in Ireland after a woman accused him of sexual assault in December, according to 4 people familiar with the investigation. McGregor has not been charged with a crime. Following the usual protocol in criminal investigations in Ireland and much of Europe, where a formal charge does not necessarily follow an arrest, McGregor was arrested in January, questioned by law enforcement authorities, and released, pending further investigation, according to the People. The allegations have not been proven, and the fact that an investigation is continuing does not imply that McGregor is guilty of a crime. A lawyer for McGregor in Dublin did not respond to messages seeking a comment. On Tuesday, he announced his retirement from UFC. He has fought once since 2016, about in October that he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. He previously announced a retirement only to come back. The woman making the allegations said it occurred at the Beacon Hotel, an establishment attached to a business park on the edge of Dublin. There is little to suggest it would be a haunt for one of Ireland's best-known sports figures, a multi-millionaire with a loyal global fan base. McGregor is an occasional guest there, usually booking its sole penthouse room, according to a person with knowledge of the situation. The last and most recent visit occurred in December. Irish news media have reported on the case since news of the assault broke late last year, but without naming McGregor. Laws in Ireland restrict the news media from identifying individuals charged with rape unless they are convicted, which has not happened in this case. News outlets reporting the identity of a suspect before a charge is brought often face costly libel and breach of privacy lawsuits in Ireland. Publication after a charge is filed could lead to a more serious contempt of court indictment. A spokesman for Ireland's police service, known as the Gardaí, could not confirm if McGregor is the suspect. In response to a request for comment related to, quote, an unnamed sportsman, it said a man had been arrested on January 17th and released without charge while investigations continue. A file had been sent to the National Prosecutor's Office for consideration. McGregor and the UFC have not commented on the allegations. We don't comment on rumors. Talks about the Beacon and the incident and an internal memo that had been leaked from the broadcaster RTE. The document, which appears to be the schedule for a morning radio show, was stamped, quote, "Not for publication/broadcast" in capital letters, was printed on January 18. It explained that McGregor had presented himself at a police station at 5 p.m. a day earlier. On the morning the memo was printed, RTE News bulletins included the story of the man being questioned, but did not name him. RTE declined to comment. Of course, McGregor's had other issues, suspended by the NSAC for 6 months, fined $50,000 for his role in a brawl that took place after his defeat to Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov fined $500,000 for his role. Also arrested in Miami Beach, charged with robbery and criminal mischief after he was accused of stealing a cell phone from somebody trying to take his picture. His lawyer described the altercation as minor and said McGregor, who was released after posting bail, would cooperate with the police. As noted in the opening segment, Conor has claimed on Twitter he is retired. Dana White has apparently claimed he's done. Of course, we've heard all of this before, but that's the latest. A lot going on with Conor McGregor.
None of it good, and none of it good. And I guess that's the reason that people had spoken in such, one of the reasons that people have spoken in such hushed tones about Conor and his activities outside the ring, for anybody that had a hold of that story on top of him in Miami and some of the other incidents that have taken place piling on top of each other. His outside the ring exploits are his business, and they are driving possibly his business into the ground, if he's not doing that already. Talking about retirement, I think the trolling game going on back and forth between Conor, swaggering out there, just throwing retirement out there as if people were going to come running and throw roses at him and say, no, please don't do it, is if that's what he's doing it for, it's a fail. If he's doing it as a tool to try to get more money out of the UFC, that doesn't seem to be working either, as Dana White just kind of blew it off and, hey, go ahead and retire. Go ahead and knock yourself out, because what else are you going to do? Because what else is he going to do? There's really not much out there for him. I guess somebody could try to make the case for a rematch with Floyd Mayweather or whatever you'd want to do there, but really it's Khabib, it's Nate Diaz, and there's not a whole lot else, frankly, that I want to see Conor involved in. So we'll have to kind of see where both of these stories go. They're, one of which is not any, really isn't much to talk about or make light of or anything else. It's just going to be interesting to see and probably pretty unfortunate to see how that one plays out when it comes to just the bantering with the UFC and all that. I don't want to say I'm over it or anything, but we've danced this dance before.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Mike. It's Edward from California. Speaking of this whole Conor thing, I have one of your opinions on something real quick. Dana White obviously is no stranger to controversy. I mean, the whole, Conor's retiring and Dana's like, let him retire, whatever. These are just words. So, do you see them, despite all these serious rumors and allegations, do you still see them negotiating contracts at all or anything like that?
What do you mean, do they still negotiate contracts? I don't even understand the question.
Oh, sorry. What I mean is that despite these allegations against Conor McGregor...
Are you talking about specifically for Conor?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the deal with Conor, everybody, and UFC, and everybody in UFC. They just signed that new deal to put all of the pay-per-views on ESPN+. And they're getting a flat fee in the neighborhood of what would be expected for 500,000 pay-per-view buys. And obviously some shows, like the last John Jones show, I think did in the 600s, and a Conor show is going to do way more than 500,000. But there's a lot of shows that are doing nowhere near 500,000. So, I mean, I don't know all of the details in the sense that if they do a show that does 2 million buys, I presume that UFC is going to get a percentage of that. So there is obviously some interest in having Conor there to fight. But Conor's value is nothing like it used to be now that they've signed this deal. Before this deal, they needed Conor to bump up their numbers over the course of a given year. They needed a John Jones fight to bump up their numbers over the course of a year. Now, they've got a flat fee for every single show. You could headline a show with two guys that nobody has ever heard of that on pay-per-view would do 125,000 buys, and they're getting paid the equivalent of 500,000 buys for every single pay-per-view that they do. So I'm not saying that Conor is not valuable to the company, but he was significantly more valuable before this deal. And so Conor trying to sit there and demand points in the company and demand this and demand that, he may have gotten a little further 2 weeks ago than he's going to get now.
You're right about that. You're absolutely right about that. But they still need to build these stars. They still need to sell pay-per-views. ESPN needs for them to sell pay-per-views, if not for now, but for 7-8 years down the line when you're trying to reset up deals and see where your next big, parachute of money is going to come from if somebody's going to give it to you. So they definitely need to do that. It's still an individual sport, and they still absolutely need to do that. Now, if he's also meant to, are they negotiating with him while all of this is going on, and do they look at it as any sort of black eye or anything like that? No, not until anything actually comes out and is pushed forward. UFC's
if you
never
think
made
they didn't know about this before today, think
that's
again.
the thing. UFC's never made any bones about the fact, or really any fight game too. They're not in the moral business anyway. They're in the money-making business, and with nothing, unless it's going to be something he's legally charged with or something like that, they're acting like it doesn't even exist.
Here's the other thing too about Conor. Like, Conor wants to negotiate. He thinks he's all valuable for the company. And obviously, he's going to do millions of buys. He set the record with Khabib. But that Khabib fight, he fought one time in 3 years.
Yeah.
What does that mean for UFC? If he's going to be out there, if he's going to do his 2016 schedule, where, like, in 2016 he fought 3 times, 2015 he fought 3 times. I mean, now we're talking. That's some value to the company. You fought one time in 3 years. So, with a schedule like that, I mean, especially with issues like this hanging over his head, I mean, his negotiating power is nothing like it used to be at this point.
He better want to face off against boxers more. That's going to be his only shot.
Person notes, are you aware Mustafa Ali is now just Ali? Yes, he has lost his last name. In big news here.
First name.
They have scrubbed Mustafa from WWE.com. I don't know, maybe Vince woke up one day and said, Mustafa Ali, Colonel Mustafa. Why has he got the same name? Like, he suddenly remembered there was a Colonel Mustafa. Or who knows, he just doesn't want first names anymore. I don't know.
Shout out to Sheik Adnan El-Kaisi.
The guy's nuts. Back in a moment, Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Man, a lot of people have said about Mustafa Ali. His name change, the worst of the bunch. The rest you could kind of justify. This one is just strange. He is just Ali. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hi, this is Ishmael in Virginia.
Yes, Ishmael.
So I was going to discuss the situation with Conor, and you actually did bring up a good point where Khabib and Conor did do 2.4 million buys, but if you fight only once in 3 years, basically the revenue of an 800,000 buy fighter. So he's really not worth the headache unless he gets back in the cage. But more for Conor, this is where acting like an idiot, and sure he's working, sure he's a promoter, but this is where acting like a violent idiot on camera is going to remove the benefit of the doubt for a lot of people when it comes to charges like this. Not saying he's guilty or anything, but you're on tape, and most people consider you a crazy person, and then something like this happens. It's not good for you. But my question is, let's say hypothetically, I'm not sure if we discussed this, but let's say WWE were going to bring him in for a WrestleMania this year. And since this is still obviously in the very early phases of the investigation or whatever's happening in Ireland, do you think they would back off from using him? Or do you think they would proceed bullishly ahead as they've done with so many other things such as Hulk Hogan and Saudi Arabia? With something this public, do you think if he was in the plans for like a main event angle, let's say it was like a Becky Lynch or something, do you think they would still use him, or they would call him and say, not so fast?
Well, Ishmael, first off, it sounds like you're doing the call there from inside a washing machine, so I'm going to let you go. But Conor McGregor, this is the headline from the New York Times, the market where WrestleMania is taking place. Breaking news, Conor McGregor, the mixed martial arts star, is being investigated in Ireland over an accusation of sexual abuse. This Actually, that's not even that was the Twitter headline, but I can give you the actual headline here. Conor McGregor under investigation over sexual assault accusation in Ireland. I mean, we got a show being headlined by women for the first time ever. New York media reporting Conor McGregor under investigation over sexual assault in Ireland. I can't imagine they bring this guy in for WrestleMania. Now, I mean, he's still under a UFC contract. He can retire all he wants, but I'm pretty sure they'd have to make a deal with Dana White to get him in anyway. It's 2 weeks away. I mean, the Saudi Arabia thing with Hogan, I mean, there was so much negativity over Saudi Arabia. They slipped Hogan in and nobody was even upset about it. They were all so upset about Saudi Arabia that it flew under the radar. So this is not that. I can't imagine them bringing this guy in here.
No. It's just as simple as that. Not right now, no. This isn't like Mike Tyson. And I mean, even if things go away, you still have to... He keeps putting himself in situations outside the ring that would make you not want to do business, or at least second guess doing business with him, because if you get into this with him, you're really operating a lot on his terms and how much do you want to put in his basket when you are relying on him. And there's been the Miami thing. There have been numerous things, not the least of which was after the press conference and the whole Dolly and the bus thing that didn't show himself in the best light. On top of all of these other things, many of which have remained unsaid, much like this one has been up until now. So do you really want to deal with this person even if this charge goes away? I don't think I'm jumping into it.
Got a lot of comments here about Kurt Angle last night. This person says Corbin is the best angle or the best opponent for Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. There are zero expectations for a good match. If it were anybody else, fans would expect more than he can deliver. That doesn't mean that I want to see Baron Corbin and Kurt Angle.
Well.
I was expecting more from the Samoa Joe match, and it was really sad last night. But it probably wouldn't have been so sad if they didn't make the guy wrestle twice a week he's wrestling, leading up to WrestleMania. He's a wreck. This guy should have no matches until WrestleMania, one match with John Cena, and he's out of here. That'd be the easiest way to do this. As mentioned last night on the show, Kurt Angle was allowed to choose his final opponents, except the last one. They decided the last one's Baron Corbin at WrestleMania. But on Raw and SmackDown, you can pick any of your opponents. And so tonight he faces AJ Styles. Next week on Raw, he faces Rey Mysterio. And we don't have a match for the final one, the final SmackDown. I mean, let me tell you something. If he chooses John Cena for that final SmackDown, it ain't John Cena at WrestleMania, I can tell you that much. And as far as I know, as of yesterday, it's still Baron Corbin at WrestleMania. Spurt says Kurt looked like he was really struggling to get through that match. Couldn't even get up for a snap suplex early on. Corbin match is going to be a train wreck.
Hey, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it's been now, however long it's been, Kurt Angle's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen. Certainly coming up in this generation, was an all-timer. Almost immediately when he stepped out there, I never had to see another Kurt Angle match again. I don't have to see these matches, and if there's a silver lining in this, because there's so many matches on the show and because there are no expectations and because I'm sure they want people to be sent home happy with the nefarious heel getting his, I'm hoping this thing lasts for like 30 seconds. Maybe the whole presentation with the intros and everything, maybe it's 5 good minutes, but I really hope it's just him going in there, I guess responding to getting jumped by Baron Corbin before the bell. We see all the best of Angle. Hopefully not a moonsault, although I'm sure we'll probably get a moonsault too, and maybe this whole thing can be wrapped up within a minute.
I can't imagine.
I don't want it to happen, but it's Kurt Angle, and we've seen him do this off of cages when he shouldn't have.
Yeah, but, that was years ago. This guy could barely do Germans last night.
Doesn't mean that, this does not mean that he's not going to attempt to do something like that. I'm not saying, like I said, I don't want to see it. But I'm not saying, you cannot tell me that it's out of the realm of possibility that he goes all out for one last match and does something stupid.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
What's up, guys? It's Eric and Nigo. Hey, did you see Kofi Kingston go rogue on Twitter?
I don't know if he went rogue. He's trying to fix a mistake that WWE made. Basically,
that had to be
WWE
him going into business for himself, right? Then why would they have him call them out on their BS?
Well, what happened, everybody, is WWE accidentally announced that Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan was official for WrestleMania. So then Kofi went on there and he said, all of these plans change, all of these things Vince is doing, this announcement that I'm getting the match with Daniel Bryan, it's all Vince just messing with me. So I don't know if that's going rogue. I think that's just trying to explain to everybody why they screwed up. I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal.
Yeah, it was super weird, bro, but thanks for taking my call. Final.
Thanks for making the effort today, Eric. Yeah, we'll find out tonight how they're going to get to this match. Somebody had the suggestion. They said Vince is going to sign Kofi versus both of the New Day to stir dissension, and Kofi has to beat them to go to Mania. The problem with that is they've done all the storylines of the New Day just wanting to quit. So why wouldn't they just lay down for Kofi? Why didn't they just walk out? Why wouldn't they just quit? I mean, the storyline, that means it probably will happen because that storyline makes no sense.
I don't know. I don't know what more you could really add to it at this point. It seemed like they were just covering up. Yeah, I don't think it was going rogue. Come on, Eric. I mean, to me, it was just Kofi covering up the mistake. I mean, of anything, if anybody was going to have the shoot interview, it was Big E, with his, wherever it was, Instagram or YouTube, wherever he had posted that up there, that stirred up a lot of the talk last week and everything. But, yeah, I think this was just trying to cover up a mistake, and shame on WWE for letting that one slip out there, but, they've done sloppier things, so no big deal.
Person says, why do they just have Baron Corbin be a backstage character? I have to turn off my TV when he's in a match. I hate Baron Corbin. Wow. That guy's upset. This person says, there's no way that Angle is facing Corbin if he's having matches on TV with the likes of AJ, Ray, and Samoa Joe. Mark my words. Don't steal my catchphrase, dude. Here's an explanation. Kofi tweeted yesterday, blaming all of the advertised changes lately, Instagram spoiler, on Vince purposely messing with him. Glad to see someone trying to make sense of the nonsensical.
So Bill Watts, be happy about that one.
He's trying. This person's talking about Mustafa Ali, as noted. When Mustafa Ali came in, they introduced him as a character who was a babyface in WWE, even though his name was Mustafa Ali. That was the gimmick. He's cut promos on WWE TV about being happy to be named Mustafa, and a good example for Middle Eastern kids. So people are going to be mad now, and they directly take that away because they forgot. I don't know if they forgot. I doubt Vince ever even saw those promos.
Now he's just generic Ali. He could be Tiger Ali for all anybody knows.
Wait till Vince remembers there was a Tiger Ali.
A random
He'll lose his last name.
A man of Indian descent who happened to be from Canada. So yeah, I can see where there are some identity issues with people not happy about this, but is it ridiculous? Yes. At least his name is Ali, because then maybe that would invoke memories of Muhammad Ali, whereas there are men in that promotion now just named Otis and Tucker, and I would rather be Ali than Otis.
Back in a moment, Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. A lot to talk about on the show today. 844-411-5411 is the phone number. 844-411-5411. Text message is 425-780-7566. The first major independent wrestling event of WrestleMania weekend will be live Wednesday, April 3rd, 8 Eastern. Beyond Wrestling presents the first episode of their brand new weekly series, Uncharted Territory, live on IndependentWrestling.tv. The inaugural episode will see AEW stars SoCal Uncensored, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky take on Chris Dickinson and LAX, plus former ECW champion Masato Tanaka making his Beyond Wrestling debut against David Starr. In addition to Uncharted Territory, IWTV will be broadcasting live from WrestleMania week as part of the Collective, with 6 live streams as part of your monthly subscription, featuring Game Changer Wrestling, Chikara, Interspecies Wrestling, IWS, and Black Label Pro, where, in fact, on Friday, April 5th, I will be defeating Orange Cassidy for the IndependentWrestling.tv championship. I will be the champion of independent wrestling. You can subscribe today. Join us for WrestleMania week. That is IndependentWrestling.tv. Check it out.
like former NWA touring champions of the past, do you get, as the NWA heavyweight champion, do you get, let's say, a piece of the gates, shall we say? Do you get a cut of the pay-per-view money? Are you Conor? Have you negotiated this as part of your deal? If you win this title, you're going to be getting a little bit of a cut from Beyond. You'll be getting a little bit of a cut from Black Label Pro. Anybody that runs the show on that site, the champ, will get a piece of that pie.
Are you Kayla? What a stupid question. Of course. You know what that title's worth?
What is it worth?
You don't even know.
A lot.
You can't even imagine the kind of money. All right. This person says, what happened to Kurt? Is it just his body catching up with him after all of that abuse? I ask because I remember a week before he came back as Raw GM, he had a decent match in a steel cage on the Indies versus Cody Rhodes. Still looked like he could go. There has been a dramatic downturn in Kurt Angle's work in the last year. It's kind of scary, actually. I don't know. I mean, it's not helping that he's getting beat up every night.
He can't turn his neck side to side. He can't look at you. If you say, hey, Kurt, I'm over here, he can't look over his shoulder at you.
No, but he hasn't been able to do that forever. He broke his neck at 96.
It's insane. And look, you talked about the size of Shane McMahon's neck one day, calling him a fat neck or whatever it was, or saying there it seemed to be he had an extra beefy neck. Look at Kurt. Kurt Angle doesn't even look real. Kurt Angle doesn't even look like the same human being as when he started in the wrestling business. I love Kurt Angle. I think Kurt Angle's the best. I have not needed to see again Kurt Angle wrestle a match for years now, and I get what they're doing. I understand why he wants it, and I understand why they're giving it to him, but I cringe every time I see Kurt Angle. And Tomoaki Hanma's kind of like that in a different way, too, because of the injury that he suffered. But Kurt Angle, in some ways, is kind of the same way. It's just completely ridiculous.
Person says, my prediction for the Angle-Corbin match in Mania is Angle wins the match in under 1 minute. Man, I hope so. That's how I do it. That match does not need to go any longer than that. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, boys. How are you? It's Savon from New Jersey.
Yes, Savon. You're going to be at Mania weekend. What are you going to?
Oh, I'm going front row right to your show, brother. I'll be right there
man.
watching you kick Cassidy's rear end, brother.
I hope you're in the splash zone. You're going to get orange juice all over you.
Oh, God. This is the Gallagher of independent wrestling. Going to smash the juice.
Well, speaking of Kurt Angle, real quick, I know wins and losses don't matter. Did it have to be Joe? I know we spoke about this before. Did it have to be Joe taking the pin last night? I mean, come on. You could have thrown anybody else in that position. I understand he wants to pick his matches and, go out and all his glory and stuff. But now, 2 weeks in a row, it's been SmackDown, he got rolled up and got pinned. Last night, he got rolled up and got pinned. It's really like, did it have to be Joe?
All right, Savon, let me answer this question for you, my friend. I'm going to answer this question for you. And I'm going to answer some other questions as well. I want to thank you very much for the call. I have to hear all these numbskulls on social media crying about me. I did a big speech yesterday. It's not real. Just don't listen to it. Doesn't mean I can't address it here on the show. So listen. You hear him crying about everything. Oh, Bryan complains when Kurt wins. Bryan complains when Kurt loses. Well, you know what? You're right. But there's a reason for that. Because when Kurt Angle was out there and he couldn't catch a win, he couldn't beat anybody. They beat that guy right and left. They would do these 6-mans and they wouldn't even let Kurt get the pin over Corbin. Like, Kurt couldn't beat anybody. And he's out there, he's supposed to be a legend. So yeah, at the time, I was really upset that they wouldn't give him any credibility whatsoever. So, when you suddenly swing the other way, and now he's beating everybody. He's beaten a U.S. champion. He's probably going to beat AJ Styles tonight. He's probably going to beat Rey Mysterio on Monday. Yeah, this is stupid. It's possible to be upset when he wins and upset when he loses because of the trajectory of his career and what they've done with the guy. What he should have been doing is he should have been beating these random geeks like Baron Corbin when they were doing 6-man matches. And no, he probably shouldn't be beating the U.S. champion. They went the total opposite way. He's out there, he's losing everybody. There was a match, I forget what it was, but it was Kurt Angle's first win in a singles match since 2006 in WWE. This happened like a month ago. How long has he been back? He couldn't beat anybody. Everybody beat Kurt Angle. Now all of a sudden, after losing to everybody, after being given no credibility, they've sent this guy out with no credibility, and he's beaten Samoa Joe clean in the middle of the ring, reversing Joe's finish. Yeah, this is dumb. But this is what they do. Changed their minds. Did whatever they did. There you go.
It's a story, pal. Made you feel good. Now, isn't that what matters?
Didn't make me feel good. I liked the match. I lobbied for the match, but I wanted the match at WrestleMania. And you know what? If Kurt Angle at WrestleMania would have had a match with Samoa Joe and won, I'd have been fine with that. But like, Samoa Joe is the U.S. champion. He's going to be facing Rey Mysterio for the title at WrestleMania. He's out there doing a job for Kurt Angle in a match where Angle can't even move. So yeah, this is not ideal.
And because Kurt Angle couldn't move, it's not like I'm endorsing the match going a lot longer or anything like that, but it's like they could have unpacked a different story. If you're going to do something like this, too, and you have a 3-hour show, you could have unpacked this in a half-hour block. You know what I mean? From pillar to post of, like, why it's happening and laying the match out slower and telling a better story. You had all that time, and I know you're rushed to hype all this stuff. We needed to get that Moment of Bliss segment in because the Saturday Night Live guys are going to be on there and so forth. But, like, they could have done to me, a more effective job of telling the story of, big win over the champion from the guy on his way out. So what does this even mean for Baron Corbin? If he can beat Joe, he's probably going to kill Baron. Shouldn't Baron be a little bit worried right now?
All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, y'all, team from San Antonio. Brian, first of all, I'd like to apologize for my misunderstanding of your point on the Bryan and Vinny show on Sunday. You are correct.
Thank you. You're forgiven.
Oh, you're welcome. But, well, I appreciate that. But, yeah, you're right about the Samoa Joe thing, and then what's worse is that he's going to wrestle AJ Styles tonight. And Samoa Joe's one thing, as great as he is, he's never been pushed as a world title level guy in WWE, at least. AJ Styles has, so if he beats him, even though he doesn't have a championship, that's not going to be good either. But I actually wanted to talk about the Roman Reigns segment, because, I know that WWE doesn't do wrestling. Okay, I know that. But, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me why last night Roman Reigns had to get beat up. I don't get it. Because he comes out, he did a good little, I like his short, sweet little thing, don't talk about my family. Then he can just beat him up, Yeah,
but then what are you paying for?
What?
What are you paying for, WrestleMania? He already beat up the heel.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, okay, yeah. I'm not saying he has to beat him up the way Drew beat him up. I'm saying he can, land one or two punches, Drew can bail, and, just walk up the ramp. Roman Reigns doesn't have to get beat up every week. You know what I mean? He just came back. The crowd finally likes him, what Vince McMahon has always wanted, and now he's just getting beat up all the time. That's what they do. They just get heat all the time.
Well, that's the idea. They want the babyface to have a mountain to climb. And unfortunately, in the WWE Universe, it's very hilly. There's nothing but mountains everywhere. And everybody's got to climb. Occasionally they get to the top. Then they got to do more climbing.
So with no shoes on in the snow.
You know why I didn't have a problem with it last night? Because it was like a quick beatdown and they were done. I hate the ones where they beat on the guy for 25 minutes and he has no friends and nobody comes out to help. It's just get it over with and move on. Okay, we saw it. He got beat up and now that's it. He's got to beat the guy at WrestleMania. Yes, they could have had him beat the guy up this week and then Drew get some heat next week on the Go Home show. They could have done that. Yes. But that's not the way they do things.
I got a slightly unpopular take, maybe, possibly. I don't care that AJ Styles is possibly going to lose to Kurt Angle tonight because it's going to be Randy Orton somehow getting involved in RKOing him. I mean, that wasn't even a second thought for me. I mean, is that not going to happen? That's got to be what happens, right? I mean, either that or he comes in there and he cuts both guys or something like that. I mean, that one I don't even, it goes in one eyeball and out the other. I hope it's good for a while it lasts, but as soon as they announce it, it's Randy Orton's going to RKO AJ and Kurt's going to get the win.
Kurt says, Brian, do you think you deserve this championship opportunity? I don't deserve this opportunity. I earned this opportunity.
How? Yeah.
I'm undefeated since I came back.
You lost with Tom.
I was pinned by the illegal man. And even if you count that one, I'm undefeated since. I broke Marco Stunt's leg. I won a 2-on-1 match after Disco Inferno bailed on me. I'm undefeated. Not only that, he challenged me. It doesn't even matter if I earned it or deserved it. He challenged me. Now he's got to back it up. Not me.
Look, I know your history of professional wrestling goes as far back as to whatever you found on the network, but there was this guy by the name of Greg the Hammer Valentine. You may know him from his WWF exploits, but
way back Seattle.
Way back in the day, from Seattle, Washington, the Hammer. He wrestled this man named Wahoo McDaniel, a salty old guy, and he broke Wahoo's leg, and he walked around
kind of like how I broke Marco
people.
Stunt's leg.
Exactly, and he had a shirt made up. Very simply, black shirt, white letters, block letters. I broke Wahoo's leg. When are you going to bring I broke Marco's leg shirts up to the website so you can sell those? Even though you never broke Marco's leg.
What are you talking about?
Looking for revenge.
Don't change history here. This person says, who looked more brittle, Kurt Angle or The Undertaker? They should have thrown in Marco Stunt. Who looked more brittle? Actually, believe it or not, Kurt Angle looked more brittle than The Undertaker. Last night, it was not good. Person is honestly sad watching Kurt wrestle now. The man used to be able to keep up with the speed of Rey Mysterio, and then last night, I saw him trying to run for 2 steps to do a go-behind. He was so slow-moving, it was sad to watch. It is. It's sad. It's sad. I don't think he wanted to end like this. But this is what they're giving him.
He never wanted it to end. That's why he looks like he does now, and that's why he's in the position he's in. It's been goodbye for Kurt Angle, I hate to say it, for 10 years.
Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I must defend Kurt Angle from you, Mike.
Oh, yeah?
He has not been done for 10 years. It's been done for about 4 years. Because if you look at the Dave Meltzer star ratings for Kurt Angle matches, he was still having 4-star matches in 2015. Angle Bobby Lashley, Angle Austin Aries, Angle EC3, all 4 stars. Had a bunch of 4-star matches in 2012, 2013. He could still go till about 2015. And after that, and especially the last year, it's been a downhill slide. It's sad.
Would you have suggested that he'd do those things in 2012 and 2015?
Yeah, he was still doing fine.
Right.
I don't think he should have wrestled at all when he came back to WWE. I mean, once he came back, once he left TNA and came back, like it should have been it. Maybe one retirement match, maybe. But this thing they're doing with him now is just brutal for the poor guy. It's brutal. You could see it on his face, like he was on that ramp. He was just gasping for air after that match with Samoa Joe. And it wasn't even that long. It was like a 4 or 5 minute match. So yeah, I hope the Corbin match is 1 minute, and hopefully AJ can work around him tonight. I mean, it is AJ Styles. Of course, it is Samoa Joe on Monday as well. That was not a very good match, but we'll see how it goes. We're out of time, everybody. That's the whole show already for today. But we got the Retro Raw Nitro show from 19 years ago this week coming on tonight. WCW, not at Club La Vela, but they are down in Texas for Spring Breakout.
San Padre Island?
Yep. So we're going to talk about that show. Already dudes being thrown into the ocean that I've seen so far. They're announcing the return of Bischoff and Russo together. And the greatest promo ever by Prince Iaukea, when he just buries Russo and Bischoff. Then he pauses and goes, the boys told me to do that. I think they're going to do great. Anyway, we'll talk about that tonight on the show. Thanks, Mike, as always. Callers and listeners, everybody in the studio. Talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.